Well, good morning. It is a very, very hot morning and will be a hotter afternoon on the upper terrace at the cottage. It's, I think, about 8:30 and it's already very hot. My deliberation this morning was, do I get out and walk while it's cool, or do I get out and shoot this Wednesday walkabout for you guys before the sun gets too high in the sky and I start getting some harsh sunlight? My decision was I went ahead and got in some steps this morning, and so now I am back here at the upper terrace. Today it's supposed to get up to 104. As you will realize, some of you may already have, I was in Colorado for a very quick trip this weekend to see my kiddos in their new house. And boy, when I came back, it was a different scenario up here on the hill. Now, it still looks nice because it's got good form, but momentarily I'll point out lots of the things that I took out because these brutal temperatures and of course no rain have really begun to get very destructive. It's the way Oklahoma is in August, and which is one of the reasons I am not a fan of August. So I'm going to take a break here. I wanted to get you an overview first of how things look. You can see a lot of things need to be deadheaded, but then I want to show you some individual areas and what I am doing to kind of make them look better, and also beginning a little bit of pre-prep for fall. So first, let's look at things that are doing well. So this is the front border of the upper terrace on the east side. And I would say, despite 100-degree plus temperatures, that definitely the pentas are doing well. With enough water that I gave them yesterday, the Calibracoa, or the Million Bells, are doing pretty well. Even though they look, just because of the light, like they're a little bit brown tipped, nevertheless it's just the morning light. The Fire Chief Arborvitae and the Orange Rocket are doing fine. They've got a few brown leaves on them, and also the Sunshine Ligustrum still looks really good because I've clipped it into a good form. Now, is it showing a little bit of distress? Absolutely. Some browning leaves and things, and it's requiring more water than I like to give them. But nevertheless, they're holding their own. I really cut back hard and deadheaded hard all of the Maynite or East Friesland, whatever the salvia, the purple salvia I had in the foreground. So you can see it is pretty much nothing but green mounds, though it's still attracting some pollinators, but I've cut it back pretty hard. It is normally half again that size. So I cut off all of the dead blooms, and I did it fairly aggressively towards the base. Another winner for the most part is lantana, and I'm gonna just remember that next year and maybe plant more lantana and more pentas if I decide to continue with this much color in the summer. The pink pentas are doing fine. Likewise, the Dusty Miller is doing fine. And the Minoan lace, though it is beginning to show some signs of distress too. So I am judiciously deadheading it. I'll leave some of the seed heads to fall. You can see that not only do the pollinators love the butterfly candy and all of those things, but they love the pentas. And the pentas look so fresh and white, and I think anything that looks fresh and white against the green structure is a good thing. Now this is the area, and you can see that strong eastern sun just laser-like penetrating through the flower beds. I cut back the Southern Living Crazy Pink Echinacea pretty hard because the flowers really were just toast. They bloomed for a long time, but finally they just gave out. So I have pruned those back, cut them back. In that case, you can see that I cut back this one really hard. And then for those of you that really didn't like the cleome up on the upper terrace, I have pulled 99% of it out because it was really tired and it had gotten very, very tall. And I would say that there was a tipping point. It looked great until just right before I left. And then I thought, well, I'll just leave it alone and I'll pull it out when I get back. So what this has done for me is twofold. It gives me more of an idea of what the upper terrace on the east side will look like when there are not as many tall elements, but also what it will look like when it is devoid of at least a good number of the flowering annuals, the tall flowering annuals like the cleome and like the celosia. The celosia, however, still looks beautiful, so I left it in place. But this will help me do something that I will describe here momentarily. But look, the indigo frost agapanthus is still going strong and is filling in for the vacuum that I created when I pulled out the cleome. So what this is going to help me do is envision what the upper terrace will look like when it doesn't have so many flowering annuals, and I'll be able to then determine where I need to incorporate more evergreens so that I will have really good bones and a good winter interest when the deciduous trees have lost their leaves and when there is nothing in bloom. So I've already identified a couple of places. Probably I will add, at least on the east side, I'm going to guess more large round boxwood to continue with that theme. But that remains to be seen. You can see that I have left some more celosia, both the white and the kind of purpley pink in place. And yes, it will drop seed, and I'll address that later. One thing that really, I wanted to tackle it almost immediately when we got home very late at night, and that was cutting back all of the flowers on the boxwood basil. So you can see the one in the back that I have not yet clipped. The reason being, I am gonna let that go to seed, and I'm gonna collect all of that seed and let the pollinators enjoy these blooms. But I'm going to collect all of that seed for next year. These other ones along the sidewalk, I did prune back, and I cut off all the flowers so that they will maintain their form. I was a little bit hesitant to do it because the temperatures have been so hot, but they seem to be, this is a tough cookie, and they seem to be handling it just fine. Now the container plantings, or at least the container plantings that hold flowers, they have probably what have suffered the most. And I'm just, for the most part, I'm leaving them be. They may expire, even the scaviola. The plants may expire, and if they do, I can pull them out later. But for right now, I'm just kind of leaving them be, because even though some of the foliage, sorry, the light here is very, very poor. Even though the foliage is tattered and curling and dry, it is still kind of protecting and shading out the roots. In the window box, the lantana is holding strong. The trailing scaviola just really couldn't handle it, so I've already cut it back hard, and it may or may not come back. However, the other stuff seems to be doing fine, including the tomatoes, which have gotten rambunctious, but they've got too many tomatoes on them for me to pull them out. So I've cut them back, I've tamed them a little bit, and the height is along the edge. So I've got lots of peppers and lots of tomatoes. So I know some of you don't like the wildness of it, but this wildness is being very productive right now. So I am letting it be. Thus far, the evergreens in the pots are doing just fine. They're predominantly boxwood, and they're doing okay. I did replace the one boxwood ball. Again, I apologize for the light. I'm not Stuart, and I'm not standing on the correct side, I'm certain. That one in the middle, and happily it is doing fine. And thus far, I planted 2 more of those Cranberry Creek topiary, the tall ones, so that now there are 2 cone-shaped forms that give me some symmetry on either side in the entrance of both the patio and Lemon Lane. And so far they are still doing just fine. What is not doing fine are the things that are in these urns. This is a really, really hot environment here. And even some of the lantana is struggling. But, you know, that's okay. The euphorbia, a lot of you have asked about this diamond frost euphorbia. It's not doing as well, but nevertheless, it still has fairly good form, and good form is what I'm going after right now. You can see here where a lot of it got crispy on this side, and I've cut it back, but it looks like there's a little bit, I don't know if you can see it or not, a little bit of new growth coming at the base. So it's too hot to feed, but the temperatures are supposed to moderate on Sunday, and that is when I will begin feeding. I'll look at the 10-day forecast, and then I'll begin feeding with some kind of liquid feed. In the pots, I will still use Miracle Grow, and in the ground, if I decide to do it, I will probably use a liquid organic. And I'll make a recommendation on that when I get ready to do it. Now the roses, which you may recall went in a little bit later, they're still alive, but they don't look great. Any flowers they're putting out fry immediately, and they've got some yellowing leaves just from the heat. There is a ton of deadheading that I need to do on the butterfly candy. But again, I'm not even going to do that right now. I might, the ones in the foreground, I might deadhead a little bit, but that in the back, I'm just leaving it to protect any foliage that might be sunburned by the direct light. And that's just okay. Again, because from a distance, things still look fine. You can see there some more of that indigo frost, which is just, oh my gosh, it is just, as I've said a million times, it is just breathtakingly beautiful. I'm going to zoom in for a minute, which will make my audio go out, but likewise, along the border of the west side of the terrace, the Penta looks great, the Dusty Miller looks great. I've got a little bit of weeding to do. So what you see from the sidewalk still looks very, very presentable. The white wedding hydrangeas are beginning to brown, but once they're uniformly brown, that'll actually look very beautiful, and I've cut quite a few of those to bring inside. And the zinnias aren't bothered by the heat at all. I periodically am coming out and cutting some bouquets. The Eugenia, oh my gosh, this stuff is so heat tough. And I love it. So I'm really gonna be thinking about that next year. So overall, I'm pleased with the bones of everything. The grass looks great, by the way. They'll come and mow tomorrow. But the grass looks great. And even the unirrigated portions between the sidewalk and the street still look good, because number one, it's that tough Bermuda grass that can handle it. And number two, we got enough rain early on. And I'm just now noticing that they took off the supports on the oak trees. Let's talk a little bit about the steps. Now, I know many of you have been concerned that I don't have a railing here. And actually, I was doing a little bit of research and I have come up with my answer. And I discovered that in Denver when I was at my kiddo's house. Taylor, one of the things that I have yet to do at the cottage is put a rail or a railing up and down the steps that go up to the sidewalk that then approach the cottage. And one thing I've kind of wondered about is, does it look odd to just have a singular railing, or do I have to have a double, which obviously would double the expense? But I have noticed all up and down your very, very cute street that all of them just have a singular railing. And you pointed out to me.
Yep, we have a singular railing up there as well.
So I think that's going to be just fine, and it will certainly be less expensive. I was looking at the houses along their street. I didn't have enough examples on mine, but to see if I could, if it looked better to just have one railing or two railings flanking either side of the steps. And in 99% of the cases, they had just one railing, which has the added advantage of being a lot less costly. So as soon as the steps in the back get completed, I will be putting a railing on the back steps and also on these steps right here, a single black wrought iron railing, which will coordinate with the railing that I've got around the porch. Now, I'm really thrilled with Lemon Lane because, you know, maybe the Miss Lemonabilia isn't growing quite as fast as I would like. Nevertheless, it is putting out all sorts of new growth. And you can see the delineation in color, the distinction between the new growth and the older growth. And then, of course, the lemon limes still look very, very sweet. And they're handling this heat like champions. Let's hope that they can continue. One nice thing is, you know, we wait so long for the days to get longer, and now I'm looking forward to the days getting shorter and the number of hours of intense heat decreasing. You can see back in there, yes, there are some Dear Dolores blue hydrangeas that will grow up, and I just could not be more pleased with the white weddings. I can't imagine how beautiful they'll be when they're really mature. Well, I'm going to close out this Wednesday walkabout with a street side or sidewalk side view. So you can see from a distance, it still doesn't look bad because you don't see up front, up close and personal, any distressed foliage. And if you'll notice, it's all the strong forms, rounded forms, that really save the day and give cohesion, visual weight, and a lush quality about the garden, even when it's this hot. So there is my tip, I guess, for the day. And that is, do you agree with me? The importance of evergreen structure in the garden, not only in winter, but also in the summer. Here's my question of the day for you. I have pulled out lots of cleome, cut back lots of things. In your neck of the woods, how hot is it? I continue to ask you that because I think it's just really important information for all of us. You can compare what's happening in your garden with what's happening in other people's in your like zone. But I'm also wondering, in your neck of the woods, what you are cutting back hard, both perennial and annual. What plants, annuals, whether in containers or in the ground, are you really shearing back to give them a fresh start?